They say the past always has a funny way of showing up when you least expect it. And if you'd told 19-year-old me that the sweet, soft-spoken girl I met at a high school house party would one day nearly break me in half, I would have laughed in your face. My name is Daniel Reyes. I'm 44. I met Camilla when we were just kids in high school. It was a Friday night in San Antonio, a humid one. My buddy Marcos was throwing a last-minute get-together. I almost didn't go, but fate has a way of dragging you where you need to be. Camilla had just transferred schools. She was sitting on the arm of a couch, sipping a soda, her legs tucked neatly under her like she didn't belong in the chaos. Big brown eyes, that signature giggle that made everyone feel like they were in on a secret. She wasn't the loudest in the room, but somehow I couldn't hear anything else when she laughed. We talked for hours that night, about music, horror movies, how much she hated math class. She said she wanted to be a teacher one day. I told her I just wanted her to be mine. Cheesy, I know, but it surprisingly worked. We started dating a month later. It wasn't perfect. What teenage relationship is? But there was something about her that grounded me. We'd have fights, sure, but we always bounced back quick. When she told me she was pregnant at 18, I didn't hesitate. I proposed that same year. We got married in a small backyard ceremony with barely $400 to our name and hope filling the gaps. Over the next 26 years, we built a life. A messy, loud, complicated, beautiful life. I worked my way up to become a top executive at one of the biggest construction companies in Texas. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work with good pay. I was out the door by 5 a.m. and sometimes home after dark. But it paid the bills and some. It gave us a good house, private school for the kids when they needed it, vacations every few years, stability. Camilla worked part-time cleaning houses. She was a hell of a cleaner, actually. People trusted her with everything. She also babysat for neighbors in our subdivision, especially single moms who needed a break. She was the neighborhood mommy, always checking in, always organizing something. We had 4 kids. Our first, Mateo, who is 25 now, born right after we got married, he's a little timid, but he's kind-hearted and trustworthy, and the beginning of our roller coaster of a family. Our girls. There's Sophia, 21, strong, fierce, my little mirror. Then Natalia, 16, quieter, more artistic. And finally, Valeria, the baby at 5. She's a wild one, smart as a whip, always asking questions nobody her age should be thinking about. A curious little one. I loved all 4 like they were carved from my own bones. For the longest time, I thought Camilla and I were rock solid. We had our differences, sure. She was sharp-tongued, independent, loved control. I'm more laid back. We'd clash, especially over money. She liked to shop. I liked to save. She liked going out dancing with her friends. I liked a beer on the porch and some old Vicente Fernandez playing low. But we'd make up. We always made up. And when we were good, we were good. We'd binge anime together, visit haunted spots across Texas just for the thrill. She'd prank me in the kitchen while I cooked, throw pillows at me while we watched movies. Playful stuff, silly stuff. The kind of moments that make you forget every argument and have you live in the moment like it would never end and nothing could ever go wrong. My best friend and confidant. But I started noticing little things around year 24. She started locking her phone more. She'd text late into the night saying it was a mom group. There were whispers I overheard during her FaceTime calls. Male voices, laughter I didn't recognize. She started spending more time running errands, but couldn't ever explain what she bought. She'd go out dressed to the nines, full glam, heels, perfume, to meet a girlfriend I'd never met in person. At first, I blamed myself. I was always tired. Work was draining. Maybe I wasn't present enough. Maybe I wasn't showing her she was beautiful like I used to. Maybe after all these years, I just didn't excite her anymore. And then came the night I knew something was off. She was asleep. Her phone buzzed at 2 a.m. I usually never checked it, but something told me to look. It was unlocked. First message said, "Can't wait to taste you again? That thing you do with your tongue? God damn, Camilla. I froze. The number wasn't saved, but there were pictures, videos. She'd sent him everything, things she never did with me. I didn't wake her. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I screen recorded everything. I emailed it all to a dummy account. I created a folder called Camilla Truth and started collecting. Over the next 2 months, I played my role. Loving husband, dutiful dad. She never suspected. But I followed patterns. She had been cheating not just recently, but for years. Different names. One guy was a mutual friend from back when we were 22. Another was her co-worker from a daycare she worked at briefly. One name popped out that nearly made me puke. Luis Ortega, my childhood friend. The same guy who gave the toast at our wedding. The worst? Her ex from high school, Victor Delgado. He was back in the picture. They'd been messaging for months. Apparently, they hooked up when she visited California with the kids a few summers ago. I found photos. She sent him videos. She told him things like, "It always felt right with you. I never stopped wondering." That was the nail in the coffin. But I wasn't done yet. I needed to know the truth. So I did something I never thought I'd have to do. I got a paternity test. All 4 kids. Sophia, mine. Without a doubt. 99.99%. Natalia, mine. Valeria, also mine. But our first Mateo wasn't mine. Shocked is an understatement. It shattered me. I remember sitting in the car outside the clinic gripping that envelope, just staring. I didn't cry. I just went numb. That's when I knew I was done playing nice. When I came home, I smiled and kissed her like I normally did, like nothing changed. I hugged my girls tightly every night. I even took her on a surprise date night, something I hadn't done in years. The whole time I was watching her, watching how easily she lied to my face, watching the subtle changes in her stories, the nervous tics when I asked harmless questions. She thought I was just being a more affectionate husband. But really, I was building a case, quietly, patiently. I bought a cheap burner phone and installed a hidden camera in the living room, disguised inside a bookshelf speaker. Then I installed tracking software on her car using a simple magnetic GPS tracker. I didn't want to believe I needed to do all this. But my gut wouldn't shut up, and I've learned one thing in life. A man's gut is rarely wrong. It didn't take long. One Friday night, she said she was going to babysit for a family she worked for in Garland. She packed an overnight bag, kissed the kids goodbye, and left like it was any other day. I watched her car on the tracker go nowhere near Garland. She went west, over into Grand Prairie to some apartment complex near Interstate 30. She stayed there all night. When she came home the next morning, tired and exhausted from a long night of babysitting, I made her breakfast. French toast, her favorite. She smiled, said I was being sweet. I offered to rub her feet while the kids watched cartoons. She laid there like nothing happened, like she hadn't just been out getting folded by some dude in an apartment he probably didn't even pay rent on. I didn't say a word. I just kept gathering, piece by piece, screen recordings, photos, timestamps. I found her secret Instagram where she messaged random guys under a fake name, Mia.Temptress. Cute. Found out the guy from Grand Prairie was someone she met on there months ago. I also found another guy, some married construction foreman I used to work with years ago. And to really twist the knife, there were more messages of her and her ex-boyfriend, Mateo's dad. Yeah, the same man who abandoned her and his son, never married her, and ignored her for over a decade or so, I thought. How he weaseled his way back into her life, I have no idea. It looked like they started messaging late last year. He was back in Texas, stationed in Corpus Christi, and I guess she wanted to reconnect. Not for Mateo's sake, but because he was part of her greatest hits tour. And then came the moment that broke me. She called him while she was doing laundry in our bedroom. I had a voice recorder tucked away inside one of the dresser drawers. She didn't say anything sexual. It wasn't even romantic. It was worse. It was comforting, familiar. Like this wasn't new. Like this had been going on for years, and I'd just been the damn fool sitting in the dark. She laughed about our marriage. Said she loves me, but not like that anymore. Said she missed the way things used to be when she was with him. Even though he never stayed loyal, never stepped up, and left her to raise his kid with another man. She even admitted to him that she sometimes has to force herself to sleep with me. That it felt like I was more like a best friend to her, a safe place, but not someone she could connect with sexually anymore. I swear to God, that was the hardest thing I've ever had to hear in my life. I cried in my truck that night. Not because of her, not because of what she did, but because I realized I'd built my entire adult life on a lie. 26 years, 4 kids, a house I paid off early, a marriage I defended when people told me she wasn't wife material. And for what? I was a placeholder, a safe option, a provider. I wasn't her person, at least not the way I always thought she was mine. After that, I went silent inside. I didn't yell, didn't confront her. I just existed. I slept in our bed next to her. I made the girls their lunches for school. I went to work and crushed my meetings like always. I hung out with Mateo in the yard like normal. And in the background, I contacted a private attorney, a good one who knew how to handle cases like this in Texas, where infidelity still meant something in court. We laid out a plan. Full custody. No alimony. Protect the house, my pension, my 401k, and nail her with infidelity evidence before she could play the emotional abuse or neglect card. We'd use the GPS logs, her fake Instagram, screenshots, text threads, recordings, everything. My wife, Camila Delgado Hernandez, gave me 4 beautiful kids, but only the last 3 were truly mine. The betrayal, it wasn't just sexual, it was generational. She tried to rewrite my legacy, but I still said nothing. I waited for the perfect moment, and it came 2 weeks later. It was a Sunday. The kind of Texas Sunday where the sun doesn't just shine, it scorches. I grilled in the backyard, the smell of carne asada filling the air, kids running in and out of the house. Camilla was laughing with Valeria, and Sophia was helping Natalia braid her hair on the back patio. It was the perfect setting for a perfectly staged collapse. I told everyone we were having a family dinner. I made sure they were all home, even Mateo, who had swung by after working a half shift at his job. My parents were sitting at the table on the patio under the big umbrella, sipping micheladas and talking with Camilla's parents. A few of our longtime friends were there too, including Luis, my old best friend from high school who had known us both since we were teenagers. He brought his wife, Carla, who was chatting with Camilla like nothing was wrong. Camilla thought I was just being sentimental again. "You're getting soft in your old age?" she teased earlier, kissing my cheek. She didn't know I had printed everything. I had an envelope for each of them, labeled and sealed. Inside, screenshots, GPS logs, the burner phone's videos, her DMs as Mia.Temptress. Printouts of the paternity test, all 4 results, and 1 more envelope, unmarked, for Luis. I didn't speak until after dessert. Valeria was upstairs in her room with headphones on, watching cartoons. The sun was low, plates were being cleared, people were laughing. I stood up, cleared my throat, and slid the envelopes across the table. Mateo, Sophia, Natalia, Camila, and then I locked eyes with Luis and dropped the final one in front of him. Camilla's brow furrowed. "What's this?" I looked her dead in the eyes. "Everything." Silence fell like a brick. Sophia picked hers up first. "Is this a joke?" "Open it," I said. Mateo tore his open, slowly at first, then faster. Camilla's hand trembled as she peeled hers apart. Luis just stared at the envelope like it was ticking. Then it hit. The table went quiet. You could hear the ceiling fan inside clicking through the open window. Sophia gasped, covering her mouth. Camilla's eyes scanned the papers faster and faster, her mouth moving but no sound coming out. Then her face changed, pale, shocked, and suddenly angry. "This is insane," she whispered. You went through my phone? You tracked me?" "I did," I said, calm, cold. "And for good reason. You've been cheating on me for years." Her father slammed his glass down. "Wait, what the hell are you talking about?" Mateo looked up from the papers, his brows furrowed, confused. What does this mean?" His hands were shaking, gripping the paternity result. I turned to him slowly. "Mateo, I'm not your biological father." He blinked. No, that doesn't make sense." I nodded, swallowing hard. "I'm sorry, I found out 2 months ago. I had paternity tests run on all 4 of you." Mateo stared at me like I'd just spoken another language. No, man. You raised me. You are my dad. What the fuck is this?" His voice cracked, fury and heartbreak rising in his throat, twisting every word. Camilla stood abruptly, eyes wide. "Mateo, wait! Baby, please, just let me explain." "Explain what?" he yelled. "That you lied to me my whole damn life? That you let another man raise me like he was my real dad? What the fuck is this, Mom?" "I was young," she stammered, voice trembling. "I didn't know what to do. I was scared." "But you knew," he snapped. "You knew he wasn't my dad and you still let him believe it? You let me believe it?" She was crying now. "I loved your father. I tried to move on, to build a life." "Then why are you texting him?" Mateo shouted. "Why are you telling him you still think about him, that you miss him, that you never stopped loving him? What does that mean, Mom?" Camilla's mother stood now, too, jaw dropped. "Camilla, what is all this? Are these real?" Sophia slammed her hand on the table. "Are you serious right now? All this time you were lying to all of us? Hiding your skeletons and playing house like nothing?" Luis suddenly pushed his chair back. "Yo, bro, what's this about?" I turned to him, slowly. "Open the envelope." He hesitated, then tore it open. 2 photos, one of Camilla's burner phone screen, the other a screenshot from a video. His face, her body, his voice calling her Mia. Luis's face went ghost white. Camilla gasped, "No!" But the gasp wasn't the loudest sound at the table. It was Luis's wife. She stood up like she'd been hit with a bolt of lightning. "What the hell is this, Luis?" He looked at her, panicked. Baby, Don't you babe me!" she shrieked. "You told me you didn't even find her cute, that I had nothing to worry about. Did you seriously sleep with Camilla and even kept in contact?" My dad stood up now, too, fists clenched. "Are you telling me this bastard—" He pointed directly at Luis. "Slept with your wife?" "He didn't just sleep with her," I said, voice steady but sharp. "He's been in contact with her since the reunion barbecue. You remember that day, when you all went home early? They stayed behind." Luis's wife whipped toward Camilla now, fury radiating off her. "You disgusting bitch! We were teenagers when you tried it the first time, and now you're screwing him again like nothing's changed. I stood up at your wedding." Luis tried to speak. It wasn't like that." "Shut up," I snapped. "Don't even try it." "You piece of shit!" Luis's wife hissed, tears brimming now. "We've been together since high school. I gave you kids, a home, and you threw it all away for her?" Camilla cried out again, mascara streaming. "You're blowing up our family." "You blew it up the first time you let another man into your body while I was home with our kids, and the second time, and the third, and every time after that." My mom's voice cut through like a knife. "Camilla, how could you?" Camilla sobbed. "I didn't plan for this. It wasn't supposed to go this far, I swear." Camilla's father pointed at her. "You lied to my face. You said you were working part-time to help the family." Luis stood awkwardly, muttering, I should go. No, you don't, my father said, stepping forward. You stay right here and hear what you did to this family. Luis's wife stared at him, stunned. You slept with her? She asked, voice trembling. After everything we've been through? Luis couldn't meet her eyes. It was a mistake. I swear to you. Oh my God, Luis, she said, backing away. You knew what she was. I knew she had her eyes on you, even back in high school. Mateo suddenly roared, slamming his fist into a lawn chair. You're all disgusting. Sophia looked like she was going to be sick. Natalia stood in the hallway clutching the envelope I had given her earlier. Her eyes were red, her jaw clenched. She didn't say anything, just stared at her mother like she was a stranger. I walked over, standing beside her. I'm sorry, mija. You didn't deserve any of this. She nodded slowly but didn't speak. Her hand crushed the envelope tighter. Camilla tried to approach me, reaching out through tears. Please, don't do this! Sophia blocked her path. Don't you dare. You were making it seem like he was the problem, that he was distant, cold, that we were the broken ones for not seeing your pain. I was in pain, Camilla cried. No, you were selfish, Sophia snapped. You were sneaking out, messaging random men and women while we were trying to eat dinner together like a family. Camilla's mother dropped into her chair, sobbing quietly. Her father stared at the ground, silent and ashamed. Luis's wife stepped forward, her eyes wet but fierce. You've been chasing what isn't yours since we were teenagers, she said to Camilla. You always wanted to ruin something good, and you... She turned to Luis, voice cracking. You let her. Luis shook his head, pained. It didn't mean anything. It meant enough to destroy this, she said. You let her take something from both of us, and I don't know if I can forgive that. Luis had no defense, just silence. Mateo looked at me now, face streaked with tears. So who the hell am I then? I looked him in the eyes. You're my son. That'll never change. But you deserve the truth. All of you did. He turned and stormed off, kicking open the fence gate and disappearing down the street. Camilla collapsed in the grass, wailing. Sophia stepped back, her voice cracking with disbelief. Don't you ever ask me to lie for you again. Camilla froze, her tear-streaked face still reaching for someone to save her. I told Dad you were out helping a friend when you didn't come home. I said you left your phone in the car. I even told Valeria you were working late so she wouldn't cry, Sophia continued, her hands shaking. I thought I was protecting you. I thought you were just overwhelmed. I turned toward Sophia, heart sinking. You were just trying to be a good daughter, I said softly. I should have seen it. I should have never let you be the one trying to hold things together. She looked at me, eyes wet. I didn't know, Dad. I swear I didn't know she was... I know, I said. It wasn't your lie to carry. That was her choice, not yours. My mom leaned toward my dad and whispered, We should have said something sooner. We saw the signs. Camilla heard it. She turned toward Sophia, desperation bleeding through her voice. Mija, I never meant for you to get caught in this. I didn't want you to lie for me. You asked me to, Sophia shouted, finally breaking. You said, just cover for me this once. Then it was twice. Then 5 times. I thought you were going through something. I didn't know I was helping you sneak off to cheat on Dad. Camilla covered her face, sobbing now. I was lost. I didn't know what I was doing. You knew exactly what you were doing, I said, cutting through the noise. You just didn't think anyone would ever connect the dots. And when you needed a shield, you used our daughter. Sophia was trembling. You made me lie to my little sister. You made me lie to him. I walked over and put a hand on her shoulder. You don't owe her any more protection. Not anymore. Sophia wiped her face and stepped back, away from her mother's outstretched hand. Camilla collapsed down into the grass, sobbing harder. Sophia stood stiff, unmoved. Natalia stood frozen, still holding the envelope I'd handed her earlier. Her eyes were glassy, wide, too much for a 16-year-old to process in one night. Natalia lingered near the hallway, hugging herself tightly. The envelope she still clutched in her hand seemed heavier now. She looked between her mother and me, as if trying to make sense of how the people who raised her could shatter like this. Camilla's mother sat silently, rocking slightly in her seat as tears streamed down her face. Her father remained stone-faced, eyes fixed on the ground. He didn't say a word. Luis's wife, who had stood stiff and quiet this whole time, finally stepped forward, voice low but cutting. "So it's true," she said, looking at him, not her. "All these years, and you kept this from me?" Luis opened his mouth but couldn't find words. "You said it was nothing, that she was just some girl from the past, that there was never anything between you two worth talking about," she said bitterly. "You lied." "I didn't even know if I should bring it up," he began. "You should have," she snapped. "Not here, not like this, but years ago. I deserved to know what I was marrying into." Luis lowered his eyes. "It was a mistake, I swear. It meant nothing. I was just lost and overwhelmed." She turned toward Camilla, who was still sobbing in the grass. "And you let him, us, sit there, like nothing happened, pretending like it didn't even exist. You had the audacity to let him come to your home, sit at your table, and smile in my face while doing so." Camilla looked up, lips trembling. "I never meant for it to come out like this. It was over before it even began." Luis's wife gave a short, humorless laugh. "It still happened, and now all of us are standing in the middle of it." My father shook his head, muttering, "Goddamn disgrace!" My mother touched his arm and whispered, "Let it be. The damage is done." Upstairs, the faint sound of Valeria's music still filtered through the ceiling, her world untouched by the hurricane just below. Luis stood still, ashamed. His wife stared at him for a long beat, then said coldly, "We're done for tonight. Don't follow me." And she walked past him toward the cars, not running, not crying, just done. I looked at Luis. "Don't you ever come near me and my family again?" He didn't argue. He turned and left. I looked around one last time, at the family I thought I had, and the truths that had shattered it. I turned to Camilla, still sobbing in the dirt. "You wanted freedom?" I said quietly. "Now you've got it." Then I walked into the house, leaving the door open behind me. For the first time in years, I didn't feel broken. I felt free. The house didn't explode after that night. It didn't burn or collapse. It just went quiet, too quiet. Camilla and I coexisted like ghosts in our own home. We slept in separate rooms, spoke only when necessary, ate at different times. There were no more family dinners, no shared laughter echoing down the halls. The air was thick, not just with the silence, but with the weight of everything unsaid. Sophia stayed at her best friend's house a few streets over. She said she needed space. I didn't blame her. I was proud of her, honestly, for knowing what she needed and taking it. We texted every night, just simple check-ins. Mateo still came around. He wasn't cold. He didn't shut me out. But there was something in his eyes now, something that hadn't been there before. Like part of his foundation had cracked, and he was still trying to figure out how to stand on it. Natalia barely said more than a sentence at a time, but she didn't shut me out completely. I'd knock on her door, bring her favorite tea, sit on the edge of her bed and talk until she nodded or gave me a half smile. She was hurting, but she still let me in. That meant everything. Valeria. God, she was 5, but somehow wiser than all of us. She kept coloring her little unicorns and watching her cartoons, but every so often I'd catch her staring at us, watching, sensing. Kids always do. She didn't say anything, but I knew she felt the storm we were trying to pretend wasn't there. Camilla tried to keep things normal for Valeria, packed her lunches, braided her hair, helped her pick out sparkly clothes. She wasn't cruel or cold, just hollow. She avoided my eyes like they were knives, and in a way, they were. About a week after the backyard implosion, I decided it was time to speak with the kids properly. All of them. I called Natalia downstairs, Valeria, who was already here sitting cross-legged on the rug with her doll, humming to herself. I called Sophia and Mateo to come home so we can discuss a few things that's going to happen in our family. Natalia came first, hoodie up, earbuds out. Then Mateo showed up, arms crossed, but calm. Sophia came last, just arriving from her best friend's house for the talk. She didn't say much, just nodded and sat on the couch next to Natalia, who reached for her hand. I knelt a little to be level with them. Camilla was in the kitchen, pretending to clean the already clean counter. I wanted to talk to all of you about what's going to happen next, I began. No one interrupted, not even Valeria. Your mother and I, we're going to get a divorce. That part is happening. But that doesn't mean we stop being a family, not completely. And no matter what's happened between us, she's still your mom. Sophia looked down at her lap. She made a lot of mistakes, hurtful ones. But the love you had for her yesterday didn't just vanish overnight. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to love her. You're allowed to feel both. Natalia's voice was small. Are you leaving? I nodded slowly. I'll be moving out soon. I've already started looking at places, not far. I'd never be far from you. I looked between the girls, then turned to Natalia. When the time comes, I want to know where you feel safe, who you'd want to stay with. I'm going to do everything I can to get custody of you and Valeria. But it won't be forced. It'll be your choice. Natalia looked at Sophia, then Mateo, then me. Her lip trembled, but she nodded. I walked over, sat beside Valeria gently, and pulled her into my arms. She looked up at me, big brown eyes full of questions too big for her age. You and Mommy don't love each other anymore? She asked, voice soft, almost afraid to hear the answer. My throat tightened. I brushed her hair back and pulled her into my arms, holding her close. I swallowed. Sweetheart, Mommy and I, we still care about each other. But sometimes love changes, grown-ups make mistakes. That doesn't mean we stop loving you. That'll never happen. She blinked, eyes starting to well. Who will I stay with? I don't want you to leave Daddy. I kissed her forehead. I know, baby. I want that too. But that's something I wanted to ask you. If Mommy and I don't live in the same house anymore, would you want to stay with Mommy? Or me? She leaned her head against my chest. I don't want to choose. I hugged her tighter. That's okay, baby. You don't have to decide right now. Just know I'm going to try really hard to make sure you're okay, and that we still see each other all the time. I'll always be close. Always. She didn't say anything for a moment. Then, quietly, can I stay with you on the days I miss you? That broke me a little. Yes, every time. Mateo stepped forward from where he'd been leaning in the corner. His voice was rough but steady. If you ever need help with them, rides, homework, whatever, I'm here. You know that, right? I looked at him. My son, no matter what Blood said, and nodded. Yeah, I do. Thank you. He sat down beside us. He didn't speak again, but his presence was loud enough. He wasn't leaving. Not tonight. He nodded without another word. Sophia stood next. I'll come home soon, just not yet. I nodded. Take your time. Natalia stood quietly, still holding Sophia's hand. She didn't say anything either, just gave me a glance, soft, tired, but present. Then she followed Sophia upstairs. I stayed with Valeria a while longer, helping her finish a glittery puzzle of a pink castle. She leaned on my arm like nothing had changed, like she was just glad I was still here. Later that night, as I lay in the guest room I now called mine, I stared at the ceiling, heart heavy but steady. The house wasn't filled with shouting anymore, but the silence, it had its own weight. This was only the beginning. But I had made my peace with the past. The future? I was going to build it, brick by brick, starting with the people who still believed in me. Still, for the first time in a while, I wasn't drowning, just wading through one step at a time. It had been a few weeks since the backyard exploded into truth and silence took its place. Camilla and I still lived under the same roof, but we didn't speak unless it was about the children. Even then, it was short, mechanical, like passing notes to a stranger you used to know by heart. She'd cry sometimes at night. I'd hear her through the wall, but I didn't go to her even though I wanted to. But it's not my problem. Not anymore. Sophia was still staying at her best friend's place down the street. She'd come by to pick up clothes or come help Valeria with her homework, but never stayed long. She barely looked at Camilla. Her silence toward her mother was louder than anything I could have shouted. Natalia was quieter than ever, but still present, still grounded in our little routines. She started helping with Valeria's bedtime stories, and sometimes I'd catch her just watching me, like if she was making sure I just don't up and vanish. Mateo stayed. He hadn't gone anywhere. We hadn't talked much about that night, but I felt like something shifted like a void that wouldn't close. I could see it. The hurt hadn't gone away, but the silence he chose felt more like self-preservation than anger. Valeria still smiled the most, but even she could sense the weight in the walls. One night, she tugged on my shirt while I was washing dishes. I dried my hands and knelt down. "Daddy?" "Yeah, princess?" She looked at the floor, then up at me, eyes round and sad. She was quiet, thinking. "I want to stay with you," she said, "but can Natalia come too?" I smiled, heart cracking and swelling at the same time. "I hope so." Later that week, Natalia confirmed it. We sat in the car after one of her tutoring sessions. She looked out the window the whole time. "I'm going with you, Dad," she said. "I can't stay here with her. I'll visit. I'll still love her. But I need to go." I didn't say anything at first. I just reached over and squeezed her hand. "I'll make sure it's a place you both feel at home in," I said. By then, I'd already been searching listings. Single-story homes, 3 to 5 bedrooms, enough yard for Valeria to play in, and enough quiet for Natalia to feel peace again. I met with 2 realtors that week. One house had a blue front door that Valeria liked. Another had a kitchen with sunlight that reminded me of better mornings. But the house wasn't an issue. The funny part was knowing Camilla hadn't stopped. I didn't have hard proof, not anymore. But I didn't need it. I didn't care anymore. Her phone would buzz late at night. She'd disappear into the garage to take a call. She'd go for walks. I don't even think she would deny it if I asked. One evening, I saw her outside on the porch, speaking low. When she walked back in, I didn't ask who it was. I just looked at her. "You couldn't even wait until the divorce was finalized?" I asked, voice steady. She looked back at me, not angry, just hollow. "I'm not seeing him," she said, "but I still talk to him." I nodded once. "Figures." "You don't get to judge me anymore," she added. "No," I said, heading to the stairs, "but I do get to protect my daughters from becoming anything like you." She didn't respond. Our parents barely visited now. My mother had come by once, dropped off some food, and left with wet eyes. Camilla's father hadn't said more than 2 words to her since that night. Her mother tried to call, but Camilla wouldn't pick up. The family that used to gather in our backyard every other Sunday was gone. What was left were ashes, still warm, but already drifting. A few days later, the listing came in. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a quiet cul-de-sac on the edge of town not too far from where we used to live. Big open yard out back. The photos showed a wooden swing set that looked worn enough to have stories, nothing I couldn't fix up, but it was strong enough to last a childhood. There were flowers already planted along the walkway. Someone had loved this place before. I went to see it alone. The realtor was a young woman who didn't ask too many questions. She unlocked the door, gave me space, and let the silence speak for itself. I walked through every room, picturing Valeria's drawings on the fridge, Natalia doing homework by the window, mornings without tension, nights where the quiet felt like peace instead of punishment. I walked into the backyard, touched the edge of the playset, and imagined the sound of her laughter echoing across the grass. This was it. I put in an offer the same day. When I told the girls, Valeria gasped, "Does it really have a slide?" "Yup," I smiled. "And monkey bars." She cheered. And for a second, it felt like none of this darkness had touched her. Her purity still intact. Natalia looked at the photos on my phone and nodded quietly. "It feels safe," she said. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat on the porch alone. Camilla passed by once, paused in the doorway like she wanted to say something but didn't. She turned and walked back inside. I stayed out there until the stars came out. The old life was over. The wounds were still fresh. But as I looked up for the first time in a long while, I wasn't asking why anymore. I was asking, what comes next? The offer was accepted on a Thursday morning. A 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom home in a quiet neighborhood with a huge yard, a wraparound porch, and a playground set in the back that looked like it was waiting for Valeria to run toward it. It was decent looking for what I paid, not much to fix and change, and it was safe, clean, open, a place I could work on in peace in my free time. 2 months later, we moved in. Natalia picked the room furthest from the street, the one with big windows and a reading nook. Valeria picked the one closest to mine, bright yellow walls with stars still painted on the ceiling. I didn't touch them. She loved them, which made me happy despite the situation we were in. The night we moved in, I sat on the porch with a cold drink and no words, just silence. A good kind, the kind that let your shoulders drop. The realtor who helped me find the house had sharp eyes, a calm presence, and a quiet laugh that stuck with me. Her name was Mariela Santos. She was in her late 30s, single, and good at her job. Too good. She made sure the house was priced right, checked on the plumbing, even recommended movers who were early and polite. The last time we met, after I signed the final papers, she handed me the keys and smiled. "You finally get your piece, Mr. Delgado." "Daniel," I said. "You can call me Daniel now." She laughed. "All right, Daniel. It suits you better here anyway." There was a pause, the kind where something unspoken flickers between people. I noticed how her eyes lingered a little too long. I didn't mind it, but I made myself clear. "I'm still married, technically." She nodded, her smile softening. "Going through it?" "Yeah, messy." "I figured," she said, stepping back. Then she smiled and added, "Well, if you ever need a coffee, you know where to find me." She turned, then glanced back over her shoulder. "Not a date," she said with a smirk, "unless you change your mind." I chuckled once, then watched her walk off toward her car. We started texting after that, nothing over the line, just light conversation, the kind that didn't ask for too much but made the days feel a little less heavy. Some mornings, when it got too loud in my own head, I'd meet her for coffee. No pressure, just someone to listen. She never pushed. She just showed up and let me speak. and somehow that felt like it was enough. No judgment, no advice, just understanding and being heard. The divorce dragged like an open wound through every inch of the calendar. Camilla wanted custody, at least part-time. She cried in court, said she was still a good mother, said what happened between us shouldn't affect the children, that they needed her. My lawyer pushed back hard. He showed the judge how often she'd left, how she'd used Sophia as a shield. Natalia's therapist submitted a statement, said the girl wasn't thriving in the current environment. Valeria's teachers had started documenting mood shifts, withdrawn, distracted, sometimes tearful out of nowhere. In the end, we fought for primary custody. We got it. Joint on paper, sure, but they lived with me. Camilla could visit whenever she wanted, no restrictions. But the girls knew where home was. Even she didn't argue that part too much by the end. Maybe she saw it in their eyes. At first, she didn't fight for alimony, not until the house hit the market. Then suddenly, she wanted spousal support after seeing the house I had got for the girls and myself. Said I was thriving without her. Said I'd left her behind after she'd sacrificed everything for our family. Her lawyer called it a soft betrayal, 25 years, and nothing to show for it. They didn't bring up the affairs, the nights she disappeared, the way she slept next to me like I was a ghost for years. Still, I agreed to help, just until the house sold. I'd been the breadwinner. I knew what she made. And as much as I hated what she'd done, I wasn't going to leave the mother of my children broke on the street. That wasn't who I was. The judge didn't give her everything she wanted, but she got enough to keep spinning her story. The rest, I walked away with my dignity, my daughters, and a future she never thought I'd rebuild without her. Camilla's lovers didn't disappear either. At first, they stayed quiet, probably spooked after everything that went down on D-Day, but once I moved out and started rebuilding my life, they started surfacing again, like roaches who waited for the lights to turn off. Louise sent a message not long after I closed on the new house. You tore my whole family apart because your pride couldn't take it. Hope it was worth it. I didn't text back. How could I? How do you respond to someone blaming you for their choices? I stared at the message for a moment, jaw tight. He talked like I had set the fire, when all I did was finally stop pretending we weren't already burning. I blocked his number without a word. A week later, Diego, the one who used to work out with Camilla's cousin, followed me out of a grocery store. I was loading water and snacks into the trunk for Valeria's field trip when I heard his voice behind me. You're not special, you know. You think this new house makes you a good man? I didn't even turn around, just finished packing the trunk and shut it gently. Then I turned. No, I said. Being a good man has nothing to do with houses, but it does mean I don't threaten fathers in parking lots like a coward. That must have struck something. He swung. I blocked it and cracked him clean across the jaw, then again to the ribs, then again. He fell, wheezing, tried to stand. I slammed him back down with a right hook that chipped one of his teeth this time. My heart was pounding. My hands stung. I stood over him. If my daughters had been here, you'd need more than a dentist. I didn't stay to argue. Security came, asked if I wanted to file anything. I said no, just wanted to get home. They let me go. It was self-defense, clear as day on the cameras. But I drove home that night with one thought burning through me. Thank God Valeria wasn't with me. But what confused me was that I never told anyone where I moved or the fact that I ever moved, let alone these guys, just the ones in my family. I hadn't met most of them in person before D-Day. So how the hell did they know I moved? Unless Camilla told them, out of spite, out of pure bitterness. That was the only thing that made sense to me. Back home, Natalia asked why my knuckles were red. I didn't lie. Someone tried to push where they shouldn't. I reminded them not to. She nodded, said nothing else. Camilla called later that night. You can't keep doing this. she hissed. "You're going to make me look like the bad guy." "You did that all by yourself," I said. Then I hung up. I was finally starting to move on, but apparently my ex-wife's trash couldn't take the hint. Being in the new house there would be nights I'd look around and feel that familiar ache. I wasn't alone, but I missed something, or something was missing. Maybe just the dream I had once. Not of her, but just the version of us that I thought we were. But every time Valeria ran through the yard barefoot, or Natalia read quietly in the nook she called her corner of peace, I remembered why I left. I did this for them mainly, and for my mental well-being also. It had been a week since the fight in the parking lot. My knuckles were almost healed, just a dull stiffness now, the kind that reminds you you're not 20 anymore. I wasn't proud of it, but I didn't regret it either. But it didn't stop there. Someone egged my truck in the driveway last night. 3 yolky splashes across the windshield and hood, half dried under the morning sun like some middle school prank pulled by a broke adult with unresolved mommy issues. I stood there for a minute, just staring at it, sponge in hand. "Really?" I muttered to myself. "We're egging vehicles now? What is this, 1998? And with egg prices these days, that wasn't an insult. That was a damn financial commitment. Petty, wasteful, cowardly. Whoever did it waited until no one was watching, then scurried off into the dark like a rat. I didn't need a forensic team to figure out who might have sent them. Camilla swore she didn't know who it was. I didn't argue. I just replaced the cameras with something a little more reliable. Later that week, I brought it up to my lawyer. We met in his downtown office, quiet mid-morning. I laid it all out, without drama, just the facts. He didn't blink. "Let me guess," he said. "You think she gave your address to one of the boyfriends?" "I don't think," I said. "I know. They didn't pull my info out of thin air." He tapped his pen against a notepad. "We can't prove it unless someone admits it. But we can show a pattern. Harassment, retaliation. It speaks to stability, especially when custody's still a factor." "I'm not looking to make it worse," I said, "but I'm not letting it slide either. This is my daughter's home." He nodded slowly. "Then document everything. We'll use what we need, when we need it." That made sense. And as childish as the egging was, it reminded me of something important. People don't always come at you with fists. Sometimes they use whispers, petty games, or drive-bys in the night with a dozen scrambled threats. But peace takes work. Protection takes awareness, and I was done being caught off guard. After adding the cameras, I made sure to check the locks as well. The circle stayed tight. And from there, I started focusing on something that actually mattered. My kids. Some mornings I still woke up in defense mode, half expecting a phone call, a threat, a crack in the peace. But instead, I got breakfast with Valeria, a slow walk with Natalia to the bookstore 2 blocks down. The small things, the real things. And then there was Mariella. What started as occasional texts and coffee turned into her dropping by the house once or twice a week. At first under the excuse of checking in and seeing how we are settling in, or just to check on how the girls were, but eventually it was just to talk. She never overstepped, never flirted too loud or tried too hard. She had a calmness about her, like someone who knew her worth and didn't need to announce it. Valeria took to her fast, not in that confused, looking for a mom kind of way, just naturally, like she trusted her. They'd color together sometimes while I made dinner. Mariella would ask her about school and laugh at the silly stories only 6-year-olds can tell. And Natalia, well, Natalia doesn't trust people easily, not after everything. But one afternoon I walked into the living room and found them both reading the same book. Natalia had it open across her knees, some young adult mystery series she'd been hooked on, and Mariella was beside her, listening, nodding along, asking questions like she actually cared. She wasn't trying to win them over. She just showed up. And that did more than any flowers or grand gestures ever could. We didn't call it dating, not yet. We were careful, quiet. I didn't want the girls confused, and Mariella respected that. But I knew what it was turning into, and so did she. One night, after the girls had gone to bed, we sat on the porch again, same place where I'd first felt real peace in months. She sipped from a mug, looking out into the dark. "You seem lighter these days," she said. I shrugged. "Maybe I'm just tired." "No," she said, smiling slightly. "Tired is heavy. You feel lighter." I didn't say anything for a second. Then I asked, "Why haven't you asked where things stand?" "Between us?" She looked over at me, her gaze steady. "Because I already know. You're healing, and I don't want to be the reason you don't." That hit harder than it should have. I didn't reach for her, didn't kiss her, just sat there beside her in the kind of silence that doesn't hurt. Later that week, Camilla called again. She wasn't screaming this time. No accusations, no venom, just hollow. "Valeria told me she met your little girlfriend." "Mariella," I said. "She's not my girlfriend." Camilla was quiet a moment. Then, "Must be nice. Someone new. Clean slate." "It's not about clean slates," I said. "It's about choosing someone who sees me." "You think I didn't?" "No, I think you saw what I gave you, not who I was." I guess she didn't like that cause. She just hung up. And that was the last time we spoke for a while. I missed her voice. I never hated her either. But I did stop making space for her. It was time for me to move forward for myself and my kids. Spring rolled in soft and slow. Valeria learned to ride her bike without training wheels, which was an amazing moment and achievement for both her and I. Natalia joined a local book club and started smiling a little more when she thought I wasn't looking, but I noticed, and it couldn't have made me happier. And me? I started hitting the gym more to vent my frustration, and what better than a little self-pain to better myself, without realizing I got in the best shape of my life. I also started believing in quiet again. Not the kind that covers up damage, but the kind that means you survived it. There was still paperwork to deal with. A few tense exchanges with Camilla over scheduling or school events. But I handled them. I didn't let them in. And one Sunday morning, as I grilled pancakes in the kitchen while the girls danced around to old 90s music, Mariella texted, "Brunch later? Just us. I found a place with lemon mimosas and no judgment." I looked over at Natalia and Valeria. The house smelled like cinnamon and syrup. There was laughter echoing in the corners again. I smiled, wiped my hands, and texted back, "Only if you save me the last bite." Because for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like a broken man. I felt like a man becoming whole again. The final papers came in a plain white envelope, no drama, no fireworks. The divorce was done. No more court dates, no more letters through lawyers, no more walking on eggshells in public places where we might run into each other. Camilla and I weren't friends. We weren't enemies either. We were polite. We shared updates about the girls through short texts, dry and to the point. "Valeria has a dentist appointment Friday. Natalia left her charger here. I'll drop it off." No heart emojis, no how are yous, just parenting logistics and clean distance. That's all I wanted. That's all we needed. Because on the other side of that closure, something real was starting to grow. Mariella didn't rush it. She didn't try to blend in or replace anyone. She just showed up again and again, and my kids noticed. One Saturday morning, I walked in to see Sophia and Mariella at the counter, laughing over some YouTube cooking tutorial where the chef kept swearing every time his sauce burned. Sophia didn't warm up easily. She'd kept her distance, especially after everything with her mother. But seeing her lean in, laugh without checking herself, that was new. "She's cool," she told me later that night. "She doesn't pretend." I like that. Mateo was trickier. He wasn't rude, just quiet, measured. He'd pop in, observe from the edges, barely engage unless necessary. But one afternoon, I walked into the living room and saw the two of them on the couch. Not talking. Just sitting side by side, watching some old documentary about Latino labor strikes in the 60s. They weren't saying much, but there was something respectful in the silence. Something earned. Later, I asked him how that even happened. She asked what I was watching. He shrugged. Then she stayed. A few days after that, I caught them fixing the garbage disposal together. Apparently, she used to help her dad with home repairs and wasn't scared to get her hands dirty. I didn't expect that, Mateo said after they were done. But she knows her stuff. He still didn't say much, but the guard was down. He started showing up more, staying longer, watching how she moved around my daughters, and eventually, how she moved around me. And Valeria? She was always affectionate, open-hearted, but I'd never seen her crawl into someone's lap the way she did with Mariella during movie nights. Blanket wrapped around her like a burrito, thumb in her mouth, eyes half closed before the first act was over. "I like her hugs," she whispered to me once. One evening, I made dinner while Mariella helped the girls with a school project about family heritage. She was kneeling next to Valeria's poster board, gluing on cutouts of flags and pictures of food from my side of the family. She didn't ask if she could join in, she just made herself useful. That night, after the girls went to bed, I found her in the kitchen rinsing paint off her hands. She looked up at me with a tired smile and said, "They're incredible." "They are," I agreed. She dried her hands. "You did a good job, Daniel." I looked at her for a moment, then stepped closer. "I think we did." She leaned in, forehead against mine, and for the first time since all this started, I let myself feel hope. A week or so later, I came home to a surprise. Candles on the patio table, lights strung between the posts like a backyard wedding, a playlist of Spanish guitar and soft 90s R&B humming low through the speakers. Sophia met me at the door with a smirk and said, "You're not allowed to ask questions, just sit." Natalia was setting the table. Valeria was wearing a flower crown she clearly made herself. Even Mateo was grilling outside, sleeves rolled up, flipping steaks like he did it every weekend. I turned to Mariella, who just smiled, soft and unsure. When the meal was done and the kids were inside laughing over dessert, she reached across the table and took my hand. "I know we've already been doing this," she said quietly. "The dinners, the talks, the everything." I nodded, heart thudding. "But I want to say it out loud, Daniel. I want to ask properly." She took a breath. "Will you be my boyfriend?" It was almost funny how much that one word, boyfriend, made everything else real. Grounded, raw. I squeezed her hand and smiled. "Yeah, I will." Later, I found out the whole dinner had been her idea, but my kids helped her plan it. Mateo found the lights in storage. Sophia picked the playlist. Natalia helped with the seating, and Valeria insisted on making place cards even though she spelled daddy with an extra D. It wasn't just Mariella asking for a spot in my life, it was all of them saying she already has one. Eventually, the girls started referring to Mariella in casual conversation. "Mariella said this new bakery has the best pastelitos." "Mariella helped me pick this top. She said it makes my eyes look like yours, Dad. Not your friend. Not the realtor. Just Mariella." Even Mateo, who'd stayed distant the longest, gave his quiet approval one night at a family barbecue. He showed up a little late, fresh from work, shirt untucked, tired but present. I was flipping burgers when I caught him watching from the patio. Mariella was in the yard with Natalia and Valeria, helping them replant some succulents Valeria had named Steve and Taco. Sophia stood nearby, phone in hand, showing Mariella some new songs she was obsessed with. There was laughter. dirt under fingernails, that lazy golden hour glow. Mateo walked over and grabbed a soda. "She's good with them," he said, eyes still locked on the backyard. "She is," I replied. He took a sip, nodded to himself. "I hated this idea at first," he admitted. "Thought it was too soon. Thought maybe you were just reacting." I didn't argue. "But she's not forcing it," he added. "She's just there. Consistent. Kind." I looked at him. "You okay with this?" He turned to face me. "I'm not looking for someone to replace Mom," he said. "But I understand why you'd want someone who makes life lighter after everything that happened." He clapped me on the back. "Looks like you're doing that." Months passed. The house didn't feel new anymore. It felt like ours. Camilla still saw the girls, and I never blocked her from that. But I stopped checking in, stopped watching her social media, stopped caring who she was with or what she was doing. We weren't each other's problem anymore. She once dropped Valeria off and noticed Mariella's car in the driveway. She didn't say anything at first, just looked at the porch swing where we were drinking coffee. Before she left, she turned and said, "She seems nice." "She is," I replied. She nodded once. No bite, no sarcasm. That was it. There was nothing left to fight about. I was still learning how to let good things happen without sabotaging them. But I had something now that I didn't have in the old house for a while. Peace. Not just in the walls, not just in the routines or the silence at night, but deep down, where I thought I'd never be whole again. But inside me. The first holiday season in the new house felt different. Not because we went all out, we didn't. No inflatable reindeer or blinking rooftop lights, just a simple tree, hand-cut paper snowflakes, and stockings hung along the staircase that still smelled faintly of fresh paint and pine. But it felt like ours, like it belonged to this new version of the family we were becoming. Mariela and the girls made tamales the way my abuela used to. Flour on their cheeks, music playing too loud, Valeria dancing in the middle of the kitchen while Natalia called her a menace and kept grinning anyway. Sophia handled the playlist, arguing with Mateo over the phone about whose taste in music was more tragic. Mariela, like she always did, found her way to the center of it all, without forcing it, without claiming it. That night, after the chaos settled and the house quieted down, I stood on the back porch looking out into the yard. The porch swing creaked beside me as Mariela sat down, handing me a cup of hot chocolate. "You good?" she asked. I nodded. "Yeah, I really am." She rested her head on my shoulder, and for a long moment we just sat there in silence. No ghosts left to haunt the rooms, no tension clinging to the walls, just the calm that comes after choosing peace, every day, every moment. A few weeks later, after a quiet Sunday dinner, Mariela stayed behind while the girls cleaned up. We stood in the kitchen, rinsing dishes side by side. The window above the sink showed our dim backyard, soft porch lights glowing in the distance. She handed me a plate to dry and said, "You know, when I first met you, I thought you were never going to let yourself be happy again." I smiled. I thought the same thing. She set the sponge down and turned to me. "This doesn't feel temporary to me," she said. "I hope you know that." I did. I'd known it for a while now, but hearing her say it, with no pretense, no performance, made it real in a way that paperwork or public titles never could. I stepped closer, leaned my forehead against hers, and said, "It doesn't feel temporary to me either." She didn't say anything else. She didn't need to. The rest of the night passed like so many others, easy and steady. Mateo didn't visit often. Work kept him busy, and his own place was finally starting to feel like a home. But when he did show up, it was with thoughtful little things. Pastries from a shop he found near his office, a new book for Natalia, a plushie for Valeria, a bottle of wine for Mariela and me. He didn't say much at first, But one night, as we stood outside cleaning the grill after dinner, he said, "You're good here. I can see it." I nodded, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the need to explain myself. "You're good also. You look lighter and a little more lively," I said back. He just smiled a little and nodded. No matter what happened, no matter what some paper said, he is my son and always will be my son. Sophia was making moves too, working full-time and saving for a new place with her best friend. She still checked in often, sometimes just to drop off leftover coffee shop pastries or borrow one of Mariella's sweaters without asking. And every time, she found a way to say, without saying it, "I'm okay. You're okay. We're okay." Natalia was thriving. That same quiet, anxious energy that once made her fold inward was now being poured into her classes, her writing, and the campus book club she joined. She'd bring home new authors to obsess over and spent late nights discussing themes and theories with Mariella. Sometimes I'd just sit nearby, listening to them go back and forth like old friends, not student and adult, equals. And Valeria? She still asked for bedtime stories, still wore mismatched socks and put glitter in everything, but her drawings had changed. More people in them, always 4 or 5, sometimes 6, depending on whether she drew Camilla in. She started to call her mom. It felt like it happened overnight, but in a natural, smooth way. I didn't even notice until Mariella brought it up. It would be, "Can Mom come to the recital?" Or, "I want Mom to see my project." I'm not sure how Camilla took it if she knew, and I would have to ask her to clarify who sometimes. But it was acceptance, in the purest way only a child can offer. Sophia was visiting the house a lot all break, bouncing between our place and her best friend's apartment. But she always made it back for the important stuff, like helping Valeria write a letter to Santa or making sure the tree didn't look like a dad picked it. She had this way of pretending she didn't care while doing everything that said she did. Sophia was finally working her dream job now, junior editor at an indie publishing house that specialized in multicultural authors and bold, unfiltered voices. She spent her days buried in manuscripts, her nights fact-checking, formatting, and occasionally sending me texts at 1 a.m. saying things like, "Dad, why do people still use double spaces after periods?" She loved it. You could hear it in her voice when she talked about a book she believed in, or an author she'd helped polish, until their words sparkled. She told me once, "It feels like I'm giving stories a place to live." Over the holidays, she worked remotely from the house, laptop open at the dining table, earbuds in, eyes sharp behind her blue light glasses. But she still made time for the things that mattered, helping Valeria decorate cookies, picking out matching pajamas, roasting me for using the wrong seasoning on the tamales. And when she wasn't editing, she was recommending books to Natalia, or laughing too loud at some inside joke she refused to explain. Seeing her thrive, not just surviving, but really thriving, reminded me that healing doesn't always look like closure. Sometimes it looks like rediscovering your passion and refusing to dim it. Natalia came home from college different. Not in a bad way, just older, calmer, wiser. She wore thrifted sweaters now and always carried a book with her, even to the dinner table. She talked about literature like it was alive, quoted Sylvia Plath one minute and gushed about fantasy romances the next. And somehow, she'd convinced Valeria to start a 2-person book club, even though Valeria still picked books based on the animals on the cover. During the holidays, Natalia took over the decorating. She strung fairy lights around the staircase, arranged candles in glass jars, and left handwritten notes on everyone's stocking, little affirmations or inside jokes. Mine read, "You're doing better than you think." We stayed up one night after everyone else had gone to bed, drinking café de olla and talking about what she wanted to do after college. "I don't want to have a plan," she admitted. "I just want to love what I'm doing while I'm doing it." I looked at her and saw none of the sadness that used to cling to her after D-Day. She had grown through it, and the way she smiled now, It reached all the way to her eyes. Valeria was the heart of the house. She'd randomly started calling Mariella Mimi sometime in October, alternating it with Mom, might have been depending on her mood. She still drew pictures of all of us, stick figures with too many hearts and way too much glitter, and taped them to the fridge like gallery art. This year, she asked Santa for a real unicorn or something nice for Mimi. She still believed in magic, and in a way I was glad. After everything she had to go through, more than any 5-year-old should have, she'd kept her joy intact. She danced everywhere she went, made everyone ornaments out of pipe cleaners, and insisted that we all wear matching pajamas on Christmas Eve. Watching her curl up in Mariella's lap during movie nights, thumb in her mouth, legs swinging gently off the couch, it reminded me that kids don't fake love. They feel it, trust it, and offer it back without conditions. Mariella and I, we were solid, not perfect, because no real love ever is, but solid. What started slow and cautious had become something deep-rooted and natural. We didn't rush to define things. We didn't build off fantasy or need. We built from choice, small ones, daily ones. She knew my rhythms, my silences. I knew her tells, how she hummed softly when focused, how she touched the back of my arm when she needed reassurance but didn't want to say it out loud. We spent quiet mornings drinking coffee on the porch, planning future travel, arguing over whether we'd survive a zombie apocalypse. She insisted she'd be the last one standing. I didn't argue, mostly because she was probably right. We took turns cooking, cleaning, falling asleep on the couch during late-night movies. She stole my sweaters. I pretended not to notice. When I got overwhelmed at work, she didn't try to fix it. She just stood in the kitchen with me until I found the words. The girls adored her, not because she tried to win them over, but because she kept showing up, because she loved them as they were and never tried to step into shoes that didn't belong to her. She called this house a fresh start, but she wasn't the reason I healed. She was the reason I believed I could stay healed. To anyone still listening, if you've made it this far, thank you for walking through the wreckage, the silence, the chaos, and the healing with me. There's something I've learned. Pain doesn't get to be the last chapter, unless you let it. You can lose the life you thought you'd have, the person you thought would love you forever, the identity you spent decades building, and still find something better on the other side. Not perfect, not easy, but better, because it's honest. I didn't get here by rushing into forgiveness, or pretending I was fine, or waiting for someone else to fix it. I got here by choosing peace, even when it felt unfamiliar, by loving my kids fiercely, by letting people in when it would have been easier to close the door. So if you're in the thick of it, if your world just broke apart, and you're standing in the ashes, wondering what comes next, let me say this plainly. You are not done. You are not broken beyond repair. You are not defined by who left or who lied or what you lost. And if you're lucky, if you're open, you'll find that peace isn't always some big dramatic moment. Sometimes it's a quiet kitchen, a child's laugh, a hand reaching for yours, no words needed, a porch swing creaking under a sky full of stars. And for me, that's more than enough. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourself. And never forget, you deserve a life that feels like home.